All right. This is Matthew Johnson from He Is Ministries, formerly Catholics on Record. We decided to attend a brand change because of different reasons. I am here with Lily, former ex-witch slash pagan, turning Catholic. Keyword turning, because I'm excited about this interview to be front, because this is a rare interview that you interview somebody in the middle of conversion, official conversion. So it's a very rare interview that you get. Usually, you have people on the former side or the latter side. You never have anybody in the middle. I just have to say that I'm very excited. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to some people out there that have really helped me out. The Logos Project with Don Damasco, I think his name is, and then Dustin Quick from Holy Smokes. Um, Hounds of the Lord with Chris and the gang. It's good. I can't wait to hear from you guys again. You guys are doing good work. Um, the devotion we're going to start. Instead of a book, I'm going to do a devotion um, promotion. So devotion promotion. It does sound good. So we're going to do the Holy Face devotion promotion. Here. This is a very good devotion to have. Get this picture, print it out, and do what you have to do. Get it blessed traditionally in Latin. Hang it in your house, in the primary part of your house, in your bedroom, wherever you have to. See the results, and you will be very much amazed on how well it keeps the demons to flight. Okay, so with me is Lily. She, like I said, she's ex-witch, ex-pagan, turning Catholic. I'm excited about this interview, so I'm gonna let her go ahead and say, "How are you doing, Lily?"
I'm doing good. How are you?
Psyched. I really am. I'm really just a wrong word. I'm really excited about this interview because, like I said, you normally don't find people in the middle of a transition from something so drastic to
hmm
something so amazing, like which is Catholicism, the one true religion, the one true faith.
hmm
Um, I don't know. We can just get into it. So, but tell me, where do we begin with this? Just begin at the start. Where do you want to be? And I'll let you lead the first few minutes of this, and I'll ask a question. We'll go back, but we'll just let the Holy Spirit lead.
Yeah.
So,
As he said, I am a ex-pagan slash witch. My family comes from branches that practice Luciferianism or members of the Satanic Temple. I was a formal member of that group for a couple years, and just about 4 years ago, my spouse, who is Catholic, his mother really kind of started trying to gift me things. And at first, I was originally taking them just out of like courtesy, but then curiosity peaked, and then some incredible things happened to me, and I decided to officially convert starting last year. And I'm just a couple months away from my actual baptism.
oh, I didn't know about the baptism. We've been talking today. I did not know about the whole. You're going to receive everything then.
Yes, I am set to get baptized. I'm set to do my first confession and my first communion.
Oh wow! And then you'll do
hmm
confirmation too.
Yep, I'm
Wow, the
gonna
whole
get it all.
shebang. This whole
Yep, they're gonna
shebang.
do it all in April.
Oh wow! Do you know the date in April?
I think it's supposed to be right on actual Easter Vigil that they're gonna do at least the baptism, and then I think the next week is everything else.
Okay. Well, that's
hmm
even rarer.
Yeah,
Usually you
they're
hear about
gonna
everything.
slam it out.
Yeah. Usually they really compact it for some people, some converts and reverts, and they put all the
Yeah.
sacraments at once in Easter Vigil. But yours
hmm
is getting you're receiving baptism on Easter Vigil. Then that's the only sacrament. Then
I believe from what they've explained, there's like 2 or 3 different weekends in April that I'm gonna be going over the sacraments. So they're
okay.
kind of spacing them out. But I know the class I'm with this time is over 30 people.
Wow.
So yeah, they said it's one of the biggest classes they've ever had.
Praise
And
God.
they're young. They're not, you're not seeing 40, 50 year olds. We're seeing a lot of like 15 to 30-year olds.
Wow. So many rare things, so many gems in this story already.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 minutes in. Wow. Um, like I said, usually they do baptism, confirmation, first communion, the first all at once, but you're spacing out. So that's even more amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying that you came from ex-witch, ex-pagan background, Luciferianism. Is that I'm pronouncing it wrong? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So it's basically changed Jesus Christ to Lucifer in that
Ah,
faith. They worship Lucifer and Lilith as a main practicing branch. Those are their god and their goddess.
hmm. Yeah, I have heard of that. No, think about it. So it's like kind of like kind of an inverted anti-Christianity kind of
Yes,
where we
they
have where yeah.
yeah. They have a big practicing, or at least what I always explained it as back then was that the God of the Bible is evil, and Lucifer was trying to set us free, and he
Oh,
was punished for it. So yeah, so it's literally they took it and flipped it and tried to make it sound better, and it lures a lot of people in because when you read the values of it, it's literally self worship.
mm-hmm,
Like you can't do anything wrong. There's no such thing as a sin. Just do what you believe is right, and then you're all set.
hmm, interesting. So you went from so so did you grow up this way or how did that work?
So I have most of my family are pagan practitioners. Some of them
Mm,
branch to different branches. Some are Nordic. Some go back to like shamanism faiths. But I have a lot of family members, older family members, grandmas, mainly women for some reason. But the devil likes to attack women.
mm-hmm,
And they actually read for some pretty high ranking politicians, and some of
mm,
my family members are supposed to be so accurate they can predict your death. But there's a lot of high ranking people that go to them for like decision making things.
uh, so somebody that knows the guy that knows the guy that
Hmm.
knows it. Mm. That's that. I've seen some stuff honestly, but that already puts chills down my spine because to think about high-ranking people that we trust, and this is gonna sound so
Oh,
conspiracy channel. I'm not going down the conspiracy channel road, but it sounds
yeah.
basically we trust these people with um our politics and our faith and our
Hmm.
faith how we have faith in these people. Well, they have faith in something else that we shouldn't.
Hmm.
Kind of puts chills down your spine if you think about it. It
Yep.
should put
And
yeah.
it kind of like for my family, if they want to, if they don't like a law or they don't like something, they put a bug in someone's ear to try to get it the way they believe it should be. So you
Mm,
kind of have to watch. People aren't always doing things for the right reasons.
yeah, they'll slip something in the bill or something, and
Mhm.
it'll be like, "Oh, free healthcare, but free
Mhm.
abortions." Yeah.
Yep, and you got
Huh.
to watch those abortions. I would highly recommend looking at some of the so the Satanic Temple had opened an abortion clinic, and there are some rites and rituals
Mm,
performed around the abortion that do some things. People could look it up themselves. That you don't realize. It kind of goes back to the Bible and like Belial and
hmm.
things like that. So you got to kind of watch what's going on around you.
Yeah. Yeah. When I worked as an EMT, you would hear some things. I haven't really talked about that much, but when I worked as an EMT, you would hear some things about the abortion mills that people were just shaking. They were like, "I can't talk about it."
Hmm.
They would get calls, and off on an off note, the good thing about working in EMS, if anybody's looking for an EMS job, is that it's the most it's an amoral job. There's no like wrong. 'Cause even if you go to an abortion mill to help somebody, you're helping somebody.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the key point of that is they were so shaken. They were like, "I don't want to talk about it." Now I put two and two together. I can kind of see the part what they were talking about. It's so evil.
Yeah, and
Abortion
I
is.
mean, yeah, I had my of course me and my spouse were not married when we had our first child. And when I found out I was pregnant, a lot of my friends were like, "Why don't you just take this, so to say, potion, herbal tincture, whatever you want to?" Some people call them herbal tinctures, some people call them medicine,
Mm,
and you can basically trigger a miscarriage. But if you use that miscarriage to pray to Lilith for this, then your whole life will be set. Just go ahead and abort the baby. You're not married anyways. You didn't really want kids to start. But of course I didn't. That's kind of when I really started second guessing a
mm-hmm.
lot of that faith practice. Because I just when I got pregnant, it it changed a lot of how I felt,
Yeah,
and it wasn't something I was going to do. But to know there are people that will do that on purpose to try to influence things is kind of sad.
yeah. Um, I don't know if you know this. He's an ex Satanist, Zachary King. Have you heard of him, or you know him, or
I've heard of him.
okay, you've heard of him. He's talked about the rituals, and I'm not going to go into the details of the ritual because there's no need to do so, like you say.
Hmm.
But he's talking about what some of the things and some of things they use for the rituals are, yeah, it doesn't
Hmm.
make me feel good to say, but they use certain things to do certain things. Rules would just say
Yep.
that. But anyway, so you came from that background. When exactly did you start second guessing?
So I started guessing, second guessing. My son's gonna be 7 this coming year. So about 6 years ago is when I started to second guess it. But I was very much like, this is my faith. This is what I was raised in. Like, am I gonna, so to have a lack of a better word, am I going to colonize and convert over to a different faith? Like, that would be betraying who I was raised to be. So I spent like the first 5 year, 4 to 5 years of his life just kind of practicing mildly, like when there was major holidays and things for the pagan calendar, but starting to kind of break off a little bit. Starting to do a little bit of research. I was trying to figure out like, what is Christianity, as like, what is it? Because I didn't know what it was really. um, I had been told so many things that made me think it was something completely opposite. I thought it was oppressive. I thought it was evil, cruel, all sorts. I thought it was the reason why we have wars. And there's a lot of stuff that go brainwashing a child. And then about 2 years ago was when I started to call myself a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And then about it, actually 1 year ago, as of November, was when I had the major experience that actually I was done and I
Yeah,
converted.
yeah. So, if you don't mind me asking, tell me about this experience. So, walk me through. If I'm not second guessing, but I'm completely ignorant of like faith experiences. I'm a child, or I just don't know anything about faith. Walk me through this as you would like somebody who doesn't know.
So, um, I had gotten a rosary as a gift. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what it was. Somebody just happened to randomly one day say, "Oh, isn't that a prayer?" And I was like, "Okay, what do you mean it's a prayer?" So I started looking it up. I started watching some videos. What was the rosary? Why do they pray it? And then I was like, where does it come from? You hear stories about it being a prayer, but where did it originate from? So I actually got my hands on a Catholic Bible, and I was trying to locate in the Bible where parts came from. Finally figured that out. I actually have a whole journal that has all my notes, all the different Bible verses. I made it all decorative and pretty and everything. And then one day, because again, being from the faith I was very ashamed because I was questioning what I was raised to be. I took the rosary and I actually went in the bathroom and I was like, I'm going to try praying this because, there's when you practice witchcraft, if you're not constantly giving something, you're not constantly making like a sacrifice or doing certain things, you will get punished for it. Bad things will happen to you. So there was a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, I wasn't really practicing. I sat on the bathroom floor and I kind of brought my knees to my chest, put my hands over my knees, bowed my head, and I was just holding the rosary in my hand. I have a photographic memory, so I started to recite it. I messed up, tried again, messed up, tried again, and finally was like, listen, I'm gonna do it one more time. If I can't do this, then it ain't meant for me. I'm good. So I tried again, and I always say you could believe me or you cannot believe me. I really don't care. I know what happened to me, and I know how extreme it proved it to me. And I'm sitting there, and I heard what sounded like droplets of water, and there were 3 droplets of water. And not to say, but after talking with my local priest, he said, Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I heard 3 droplets of water, and I stopped everything I was doing. I was like, what's dripping? And then I felt like the chills kind of go from your floor to your head. And then I felt something touch the top of my head. And when I opened my eyes and I looked up, I wasn't in my bathroom. It looked like maybe a really old orchard of some sort or a grove of some sort. And lo and behold, didn't really know what she looked like, but I knew who she was. There's Mary. And she's got her hand on my head and she's reciting the rosary and she's just looking at me with this look on her face. And I immediately burst out in tears. And I'm sitting there crying and crying and crying, and I couldn't breathe and, like, the ugly crying. And all of a sudden, I hear the 3 droplets of water again, and I'm back in the bathroom. I sat there and I was crying. I literally was weeping so hard
Mm-hmm.
that, like, people came running. People were like, what happened? And then I just went through, my home had hundreds and hundreds of years of family trinkets and arts and grimoires and spell books and all sorts of, like, there was no open space on any of this. This was all covered.
Mm,
And I ripped every single thing down. I shredded it, I tore it apart, I burned it. I wanted to make sure that nobody could ever get hold of any of them ever again. And we're talking hundreds of artifacts, we're talking deity statues, we're talking books that were handwritten by my ancestors that I'll never get back. Like, they're
mm,
historic artifacts, but I didn't care because if I threw them away or I gave them to another family member, I knew in that moment it was wrong, and I knew how wrong it was, and like, you were gonna have to kill me to make me pass that on to somebody, because I could
mm,
have given it to somebody whose child read it 20 years later, and I wasn't gonna do that. And then immediately went to my spouse and said, I want to get the kids baptized. And he goes, you've always told me no. And I'm like, I want them baptized, and I want them baptized now. So a month later, December 3rd, we had them baptized. They just had their 1 year hoorah. And then immediately, I've been to church to every single Sunday. I go
mm,
to mass at 9:30 every Sunday morning, even if I go by myself. When I work in law enforcement, so on the days that I'm on call, I just go in uniform.
okay.
And I immediately, talked to the priest, talked to some of the people in the office, got set up to go through the OCIA. But they're like, you have about a year till we start this, because that's the next class that offered. So I just literally got my hands on every devotional, on every um Bible lesson, on the like the Father Schmidt going through the Bible in 1 year. I got a catechism. I really started drilling into it, and I've been told that I by the OCIA instructor, I don't really need it,
Mm.
but it's required either way.
Wow, that is an amazing story. I mean, you're so where do you find yourself at now? So you may have told me, you may have told us, but just where do you find yourself out now, faith wise? Where's your faith right now?
Oh, I'm a
How's it?
Catholic. I am
Okay,
100%,
good.
like, I am very heavily dedicated in my faith. I pray every single morning. I pray sometimes when I'm at work. I do one rosary every day. I go to every 9:30 mass every day of obligation. Um, if there's any like events coming up or feast days, I go. And I literally, like, when people come up to me, I'm like, I am a Catholic. I don't participate in that anymore. If you want to know about Catholicism, I got you. Let's go
Mm,
get a coffee.
okay. So you would say it's like kind of like your faith, like the gift of faith was given to you right at that moment. You had the three droplets of water first. You saw Mama Mary, gift of faith,
Mhm.
bam, Holy Spirit, three
Head to
drops of
toe,
water,
all the way.
bam.
And
So,
it was done. Like, I don't doubt anything. I don't question it. I don't doubt it. I don't try to find reasons why something, like, I don't try to find ways around certain things.
hmm,
A lot of people do that with their faith, like, you're not supposed to do certain things, and they're like, oh well, it's okay if this is what's going on.
yeah.
No, no.
So, are there any teachings that you find hard right now, or is there like you're just everything's 100% like?
I think there's teachings that I find, not really teachings that I find hard. But there's still a lot of times where old friends, family members, because you got to keep in mind, I lost a
Mm-hmm,
lot of family when I converted. My mother still will not talk to me about it.
mm,
When she sees me, I wear the rosary, I wear my cross, I wear my Mary medallion, all that. If she even sees them through a shirt over shirt, she just stops talking to me.
mm,
So there's a lot of times where things hit hard that way,
yeah.
or a lot of times where you're being called to pray for something. Maybe something's going on, and you should probably pray about it, and you should fast, and you should, do things to try to deepen your faith in that moment. And like I said before, witchcraft is a self-help. You think that you're helping yourself, you're not. And there's a lot of times where you're like, oh, if I went back and I did this, maybe I would get a higher paycheck this month. That's not actually going to help you. So there's a lot of temptation that way that I think still bothers me, but so far I've done really good about not failing in that category.
Would you say that okay, somebody comes along, they say have complete fusion of faith, like you did. They're in the same boat you are. They're converting to Catholicism. Would you say that they're still going to be attacked? Can you speak from personal experience? There's still very hard attacks that come to them
Oh
spiritually.
yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. There's like I have a friend of mine who was a Norse pagan, and she actually converted. She just joined the same church I go to. And she just had her first baby, which,
Mm,
praise be to it, because she was told, she was just started to convert, just started coming to mass when she got pregnant. And she was told the baby has a major hole in its heart. Oh, the baby has this major issue. Her blood pressure was 180 to 190 over 110.
mm-hmm.
She gave birth a month prematurely. So she called me one day and she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, traditional practices would tell us, go out, get you a chicken, you know, do
Yeah.
what you got to do, and the gods will make it better. And I looked at her and said, listen, I said, you want to cling to the Catholic faith, don't you? She says, yes. I said, then let's sit down. The baby goes in for its next echocardiogram tomorrow. Let's do a rosary. Let's pray. You just take a moment of faith and believe that it's going to be okay. She's like, I'm going to do that. I'm gonna give it to you. I'll give you this one. And she looked at me, she's like, I'll give you one chance, to prove to me this is what it is. And I prayed the rosary. She prayed the rosary. And the next day she went in. She calls me. She's like, it's gone. I was like, what? She goes, the hole in her heart's gone.
Mm,
And when we know the hole in the heart can heal, but her baby
mm,
was supposed to have such a severe hole that it might need surgery, it might not. It was having issues where its hearing test wasn't coming back. Went in that day, not a single health problem whatsoever.
mm. Wow.
But they're gonna attack, and if you have kids, they come for your kids.
Yeah, yeah, they
They
do.
do. I've had.
Very subtly,
Mm-hmm.
directly. Yeah, that reminds me. Many instances with my kids, like we were in the apartment. My son's newly born. My son has some health issues himself
Mm-hmm.
still, but he was born in oh 3 4 months. I'd ask my wife later, but he was 3. I'll just say 3 to 4 months. She's walking towards the door. She slips and falls down on her back, and I'm like, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. It was like when no one's ever slipped on there before,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, she may discount it to just she slipped, but I'm like, no, no, I don't
Mm-hmm.
discount that. And then like they come after your children.
They do.
He'll come
And
after.
they will come after you.
Yeah.
I got in a very severe car accident. Never been in
Mm-hmm.
a car accident my entire life. Again, I work with law enforcement. I'm in a car 9 to 12 hours a day, just
Mm-hmm.
driving. Got it just one random day. Was driving down the highway and a truck pulled off the side. Nothing pulled in front of me, just dead stopped. I nailed him going 70 something miles an hour. I ended up crushing one of my right foot. Actually, it was a non-repairable break, still broken to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And my head hit the windshield. I had glass in both my eyes. I had severe chest impact trauma and all that. This was right at that beginning. I had just been gifted a rosary, and the way the car had crushed, I couldn't get out. And I remember being in the car and I'm beating on the door and I'm like trying to kick the door with my good leg, trying to kick the door with my good leg. And the engine had come into the front and was actually pinning my knees down. And there was people coming up to the car and looking in, like putting their hands like this and looking at me. And I'm screaming, the car's catching fire, the car's catching fire, because the engine was sparking and there's fuel everywhere and all that. And just walking away from me. And I'd say that was definitely probably one of the first times that I had ever prayed. And I actually had the rosary that was gifted to me hanging on my rearview mirror. And I had yanked it down and I was clutching it. And actually, somebody that I knew that worked with our team actually managed to rip the door open and get me out before my truck was literally engulfed.
Mm-hmm.
And just never had an issue whatsoever before, and started to think about converting, hung it up on that rearview mirror the same day, gets in a severe car accident. And
Yeah.
it literally tried to kill me.
Yeah. They don't. He doesn't mess around.
Mm-mm.
When we say he, we mean you know who, Satan.
Yep.
Um. So spiritual warfare. We talked about different things. So practice, like we were talking before about practices that seem harmless, but are not exactly harmless. What would you say practices that you did that people would say are not still to this day? People would say are not. You don't trying to say
Yeah,
like
like
what?
the manifesting is
Yeah.
probably one of those. So you see a lot of people that start their journey, and that's where you have to be so careful. You will get tricked into deeper parts of witchcraft by the smaller parts, just like, a simple drug could be a gateway to another drug. So people usually start with the harmless money rituals
Mm-hmm.
or manifestation rituals. So things where you write things down. You got to write it down for 3 days straight. 3 days is a
Yeah.
mockery of our Lord, and you're trying to manifest money in your wallet. You're trying to manifest a new house. You're trying to manifest that new car you want. Those are gateways. And Satan will give you what you want to get you deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And like I said, you'll get to the point where if you're not giving something, you won't
Yeah.
get anything. And then
Yeah.
things will start to go wrong. And then you got to give something again. And it gets deeper and deeper and darker and darker. And then, next thing you know, that money ritual is, well, so and so ticked me off. I'm going to send them a hex.
Mm.
And it just gets darker. And you have to be so, because any little practice that you thinking, well, that's harmless. It's psychology. Be very careful with what you
Mm.
are doing. You
Yeah.
don't know what you're playing with.
Yeah. I think of the. I think of when me and my cousins were little. We would do, and they call them. You'll know what I'm talking about when I say this. The mirror trick with the, you go in you do this thing. I'm not gonna tell people how to do this. You do this thing
Hmm.
with the lights, and then you look in the
Yeah, this
mirror.
the summoning. It's a summoning ritual. Is basically what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, and a lot of people bring some dark stuff in by doing what they think is a game like that.
Yeah.
The mirror game. There's a camera game. There's
Yeah.
like little. I see a lot of people offering stuff for the fairies.
Oh no.
Yeah, they'll literally put stuff in their homes to welcome things that stop
Yeah.
letting things into your space that are not of God.
Yeah.
They're not of God. They're not meant for you. Stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like something like a small sin, like a small moral. There's no such thing as a small mortal sin, but let's use for example, I do something with gluttony, which is I'll be admitting is a big problem of mine with gluttony. I mean, um, let's say I do that one time. Well, actually, no, this happened the other day. I went to confession for this today, but I did. I ate too much, and I'm scrolling through my phone at night. This is not anything bad, but well, it is. But I scrolled through my phone at night, and all of a sudden, you know the movie Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know the scene. You know the classic, the thumbnail with that evil ladies on there.
Mm-hmm.
That just scares the crap out of you.
Yep.
It popped up on my front of my
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, and I'm like, I said some nasty words. I confess them too, but
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
will.
even the smallest mortal sin can bring in demons. Would you agree
Oh
with that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also, a lot of people are going to use like the movies like The Evil Dead. You say
Mm-hmm.
it's just a movie.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, coming from where I came from, I was a high priestess. Okay, I met a
Mm-hmm.
lot of new people. New people were presented to me constantly trying to join the faith that we were doing at that time. And your kid watched that horror movie Tarot. Now they want to know what a tarot card is.
Mm.
Okay, they watched that movie Evil Dead. Well, now they want to know what's a demon, what's a Ouija board,
Yeah.
what's this, what's that. They watched the newest Exorcist movie with the two little girls, and one was like a voodoo thing, and one
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, guess what your kid's now curious about?
Yeah.
Your child who is trusting you to lead the way is now curious about what that is, and
Yeah.
Google's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I don't care what your parental lock says,
No.
they find ways around it.
Yeah. And we'll find ways into the store that you go to,
Hmm.
like into Walmart. Walmart's a bad place.
Yes.
Honestly, and Target's a bad place. It's like a lot of voodoo and like a lot of like
Yep.
ritual stuff.
There
And like
is,
even
and then
you
you
were saying
you can
what?
go almost anywhere and find it.
Yeah.
Like you said, Walmart, Target. I've been
Mm-hmm.
in um Bell's. I was in Bell's one day, and there was a tarot deck in
Hmm.
there, And I'm like a little $8. Well, $8 can change your entire life,
Yeah,
and
bring you to
not for the
hell.
better.
Yeah, bring you to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm thinking of an instance that happened the other day. It was with my mother and my son, and I swear I don't know how my son knows about this, but he. Somebody said that it was me that mentioned it one time. It probably was. I'm not already mentioned. I'll take the blame for this as a parent, but I had heard from my friend about this movie called Terrifier. And don't watch this. I'm just saying the name just to say what it is. And you want to popped up on the DVD rack
The movie.
the the movie the guy that plays the movie
Mm-hmm.
the costume scared the crap out of me, the mess out of me. And my son innocently is like, look, there's the what you would call it. I'm not gonna say it again, but
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, it's like, what do you do? You can't protect your kids from anything. Even the minor stuff in like Walmart is not minor. It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
scary.
And one of the things that we've been talking about recently in our home is banning YouTube for the kids. And I know that people are like banning YouTube, and I'm like, yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
we have the parental lock, and the kids are still able to access certain things that I would consider pornography.
Yeah.
They are still able to access witchcraft things. And I mean, just to give a simple about the Slenderman killings
Mm,
with those girls, and they literally said they were sacrificing their friend.
mm,
Your kids are going to watch horror stories. Your kids are going to, like, your parents tell you, don't go to, like, when I was a kid, it was hauntedolls.com. Don't go to hauntedolls.com. It's too scary for you. And what are we doing at our friend's house the next day?
yeah. He's going
I'm
there.
going on that website. So
Yeah.
you don't, a simple scary story could lead to something got in, and next thing you know, there's some serious stuff going on. You have to shield them,
Yeah.
and yourself for that
Yeah.
matter.
And I hate. I wish there was a different platform we were using, but lo and behold, guess what we're using this. I mean, this platform, but I wish there was a different platform for Catholics, like the same thing that was just as popular. But you know how it goes. It
Hmm.
gets like a little headway, then it would just go down the tube. But I wish
Yeah.
there was something for Catholics out there, like Rumble, but even that's not safe. That has violence
Hmm.
on it too. Nothing's safe,
Hmm.
but you do what you can.
Yeah.
You got some things here from the YouTube crowd. First off, from Tom, he said a while back, good evening, Matthew and guest. God bless you both. He
Thank
said
you.
also, welcome home, sister, welcome home. And then
Thank you.
Christine said, welcome, Lily. And then, here's a good one. And this is Jeremiah. Yes, being YouTube for kids. And he was
Hmm.
also asking this is a question: do you have a channel, website, or social that we can
So I
contact?
do have socials right now. They're on private because I'm trying to. I have a lot of family members that do some pretty nasty things.
Yeah.
Um, they don't like my conversion. They don't like the path I've started to take, and they will get on there and they will curse me, and they will curse my children, and they will say, "Well, I hope you and your children go to hell, and I hope you suffer, and I hope you fall and get in a car." They just say things. So I have a lot of them on private for those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
um I know my spouse keeps telling me I need to like start a TikTok or something, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like doing that, but I'm a mom
Yeah.
and I don't get a whole lot of free time, but hopefully one day I will. Right now I'm mainly just on the Catholic pages on Facebook,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Okay. Have you ever thought about like you were speaking about channel, website, or social? Have you ever thought about like writing a book about all this?
I probably should.
Yeah, I
I've
think you
been
agree.
Yeah, and I've been told by like teachers and professors that always said you need to be an author. I can write so well. But again, I'm a mom, and
Yeah.
they don't spare anything.
No, no, no.
They're rough.
Uh, yeah. They will take your paper and they will rip it up with like no remorse.
Yeah, they'll take your
Yeah.
paper, but mainly it's
Yeah.
I try to be so involved in their lives.
Yeah.
And I take them to mass, and we go to like kids liturgy at our church and things like that. So every time you turn around, it's mom, 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 mom.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one day, but I probably should look into that because that would be cool to see how that would turn out if they would even
Yeah.
let me publish it in the end.
Yeah. You gotta find the right publisher. And there's
Yeah.
I would think like Tan Publishing, Sophia Press. just conservative ones.
Yeah,
The real
probably.
the real conservative ones. Real Baron podcast. We got a lot of people here. Says thanks for the broadcast. Good interviewing info. Well, thank you, Real Baron. Um, Jeremiah's back, and he says this. He says, it's understandable, especially with family on the line. You're doing awesome. Keep it up. If you want to publish your story, have Matt pass along my info. I will pass along his info to you. You guys get in contact. Do what you gotta do.
Okay.
He's very smart guy, very astute. He has a great story.
Hmm.
Um, I don't want to like speak for him, but he has a great story. It's a miraculous story, and it's still miracles. I will say one thing about this guy in a good light. He's very prophetic, and in the way it's supposed to be. That's just coming from my experience.
Hmm.
Talk to this guy. You want to talk to this guy? He's amazing. So I'm
Yeah,
putting
so
you out
definitely
there,
forward
Jeremiah.
him.
Yeah, I'm putting you out there, Jeremiah. So you better hold me to it. Um, so what would let's go on like some questions I was asked to ask you. We'll get right into it. Yoga. What is your stance on yoga?
It's another one that you got to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I would always say exercise is good, but there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sub teachings there that again go back to um, do this and meditate and you'll manifest this. It's
Yeah.
again, it's a gateway drug, so you have to be very careful with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say go for a jog.
Yeah. Just stretch, jog, exercise. Say a St. Michael prayer over the equipment because you have authority
Hmm.
over it at the moment. Do what you got to do. Yeah. Like even if something I would say even if something has the name yoga in it, I would just stay away from it, wouldn't you?
Hmm.
Because like,
Yeah, and you have to be careful because they're you got to remember it's another one of those ones where it started with one person's teaching and then you got branches that broke off. These
mm-hmm,
are people's. Again, I'm saying people's because they are not the divine. They are people's teachings.
hmm,
You got to be careful with that because people are people. They're you not to say you can't trust people, but if it's not of God, probably shouldn't be playing with it.
yep. And speaking of that, Real Baron says no reason to mess around with yoga, demonic at its core.
There you
So
go.
there we go.
Hmm.
I think what else? So is there anything you'd like to add to your story, and then we'll get on to the next half of this? And
So, just for my story, you have to remember that the attacks are real. They're happening. They happen
mm-hmm,
physically, they happen spiritually. They don't necessarily happen to you. They will happen to family members, they will happen to friends. Um, I'm and I've seen people like people that practice. There's a woman that I loved her for years. Genuinely, she's a funny person. But to be in my presence, and this is the interesting part, to be in my presence now makes her physically ill.
mm,
Like, and it has nothing to do like she's always like I like genuinely love you. You're fun. Like not to discuss any religious pieces, but just as like a person hanging out, going shopping or whatever, we would still be fine with each other. But physically, to be around me makes her sick.
mm,
And we just hosted Thanksgiving here with my family, and my home made certain people physically sick.
mm-hmm,
um I have a lot of things in the home now that I didn't have back then. I have a lot of I collect different crucifixes just because I like the antique things. I like to
yeah,
keep at least one in every room. I get them blessed. I have a bunch of different. There's a woman on Etsy that sells these beautiful pieces of Bible art that's based on the stories of like Jesus, and I have those everywhere. And to literally watch people walk in my house and immediately be like, I gotta leave. I'm gonna throw up. I can't do this.
mm,
Like I don't want to be in that room because I have like my dining room set up where on the back wall I have like a crucifix, the story of Jesus carrying the cross, Jesus on the cross, the empty tomb, a statue of Mary. Um, I had like my advent calendar, my advent wreath already up on the table, and that room was so uncomfortable for some of those people that you be aware of what's happening around you. Be aware of the people that are going to kind of like he's literally going to put people in your life that are going to try to say, well, no, 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 that's not what the Bible says it is. That's not how that story actually went. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you translate it back to the Greek version, that's not what it says.
Yeah.
And they're literally there to make you second guess it. And you have to
Yeah.
be very careful about who you're interacting with, and how that's influencing things around you.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, compared to where I was probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was on a bad. I was in a bad situation. I
Yeah.
was, faith wise. I was in a very, very bad situation.
Did you have
Um,
like any kind of like psychological issues like depression, anxiety,
oh, I had
turning?
severe anxiety. I had depression. I had really, really, really bad anger problems.
Mm,
Like somebody would walk up to me and they'd be like his mother, for instance, partner's mother would come to me. She'd tell me, "Oh, do you want to go to church on this day?" I'd be like, "No," and she'd be like, "What?" I'd be like, "No, I'm not going to church with you." She's like, "I'm like, stop asking me. I'm not going." And then she'd be like, "Oh, well, it's just to be courteous to us. Would you baptize your baby?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not. No. Like,
mm.
why? If you keep asking me that, I'm not going to let you see him."
Ooh.
And yeah, I was nasty. But at that point, I was actually leaving out like physical offerings for Lilith and Lucifer, and I was leaving out breads and wines, and again, lo and behold, mockery of our Lord.
Yeah.
I'm leaving out wine and bread
Hmm.
for Lucifer. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and I like people would say, "Oh, do you do Christmas?" I'd be like, "No, I don't do Christmas. I do Yule. You guys stole our holiday."
Oh,
And
classic.
I'd get really, really nasty. Like
Ooh.
when I was pregnant with my daughter and I was in the office, I wouldn't even let them put up Christmas decorations in the office.
Ooh.
But yeah, and then lo and behold, like this year, my house was lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. But yeah, I mean, it causes mental, it causes psychological, it will give you nightmares. And it, like I said, with me and my my son, and bless him, my son, I think, suffered probably way worse than anybody else. And,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about a 3 to 4 year old at the time that I was letting play with my tarot cards.
Mm.
Like he would play and he would pull cards up and he would tell you about the card. Um, and thank the Lord, he doesn't really remember much of that. But there was a point for about 6 months, and this was again when I was going through that, starting to question what I was doing, when my son got so violently ill with something respiratory. To this day, the doctors don't know what it was, and they don't know how it went away. I'm talking respiratory distress to the point where he was throwing up, fevers of 103. They tried him on asthma medications. They tried him on he had like 4 or 5 different steam nebulizer things that he was doing. And it stuck with him for about 6 months. And it ended when he was baptized.
Mm.
And that was one of the things when he got baptized. Instantly, that day he was fine, and then after that he was never sick again.
Yep. I do agree. Baptism does heal. Partially or
Mhm.
fully, depending on what the Lord wills it to heal. Yeah, they have one
Mhm.
with my son. He has I don't know if you know about this, but this disease, but Hirschsprung's disease. I don't know if you ever heard of
Okay.
that. He
I don't.
he
I
had
haven't heard of that one.
it's where your intestines are like they don't work, or your large intestine
Okay.
doesn't work. It's like
Yeah,
stalled. You say?
I got a couple friends who have issues like that.
Yeah. It's like the nerves are missing when you're born, and like it's so bad. Uh, Somebody told me that 1 in 2 children before age 5 will die with it. They won't make 50% of children. So day one he's born. Beautiful baby.
Mhm.
Day one starts to not function well. Day two we're worried because he's starting to like he's gonna have to get all this stuff done. So I'm like, we'll baptize him. Priest comes in the day one, day two area, says, no, he's fine. I won't baptize him. He's fine. Doesn't make any sense. It's kind of weird. A priest won't baptize a child. So we're all panicking. And then my
Mhm.
wife and I are like, we're just going to. She told me, like, you just do it. We're not going to wait.
Mhm.
It's an emergency. He's dying. So I baptized him in emergency. Father, Son, Holy Spirit with the water and the shell. The amazing
Mhm.
first miracle that is, when we baptized him in the NICU, they were crying babies. The babies went silent when the baptism was finished. It was
Mhm.
amazing.
Brings
And then,
peace.
and it was very peaceful. There was a moon out. The sky cleared out. It was like we were right near the window. Moon was clear. It was like very glowing, glowed on. It was
Mm-hmm.
peaceful, and it was like you could feel the wind from outside. It's like there was a wind. I remember now. There was a wind that just like was like cold, cool, peaceful wind. I believe
Mm-hmm.
it was the Holy Spirit, like there. But the main point of the story is he had like, let's say for example, this long of the Hirschsprung's disease in his intestine. When the doctors found out, did another scan, it was like this. It
Mm-hmm.
shrunk. It just parts of it disappeared, and he had to have as bad of a surgery later. So they were like,
That's
"What
good though.
happened?" Yeah, I mean it's partial healing, whereas your child had the full healing, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
a healing, and you gotta give
Yeah.
praise to God for that.
Mm-hmm.
He does what he wills. Um,
Yeah.
so how old is your son now?
He is 6 currently.
Okay, is he
Yeah.
going
And
through CCD or anything right
so
now?
we're starting to get him on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I like most of the time he's been going to we live about an hour away from his Catholic, so to say, Catholic side of the family. And he's been going to church with them and doing what he needs to do that way. Whereas I've been attending a church here,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm actually taking and actually a place that I can say is it's a home.
Yeah.
It's, I'd always thought I would never call a church home.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always made the joke I'd set on fire if I set on church property. Uh, yeah, but this is it's home. Like I could literally crawl up and sleep
Yeah.
and find like I went to the midnight mass and stuff for Christmas, and I was like, just turn off the lights. I'll just sleep here. It's fine.
Sleep in the presence of
Yeah,
Jesus. Yeah.
yeah. But I was blessed with a very, very good priest. And right now we have a second priest currently going through. I don't really quite remember what you call it, but where they're doing their 6 months before they get assigned somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been a journey. We're trying to get him started in it. Um, I'm trying to, I have a almost 2-year-old daughter as well that is very feisty, but we're trying to get her used to being in a church.
Yeah. Yeah.
She does better with them because they have a bigger family and they can kind of block off a whole section. She can run back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, there would just be 2 of us.
Yeah. So you said 6-year-old son, 2-year-old daughter.
Hmm.
That's exactly. Well, my son's gonna be 6 in January, but daughters too. Same
Yep.
gender
And
gap,
them
same
them little
everything.
girls is spicy.
little
They're
devils,
woo,
little
she'll
devils
make you
sometimes.
question it. Oh
Yeah, she
yeah.
will. She will.
But in I think a lot of ways,
Yeah.
being a parent
Mm-hmm.
has brought me very, very close to God and very,
Mm-hmm.
very close to Mary as well because I want to be that example. I want to work harder and I want to like show to them that it can be done.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that drives me in a whole nother way to try to be that for them because like I said, there's certain family that my dad has a huge family. My dad has a huge one. He's got 14 sisters and 3 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And like it just like I'm so terrified that they're going to come down and start trying to fill their heads with stuff. I'm trying to like pack everything I can Catholic in there and be like, "Here you go." So that way if they ever pop up in your life, you kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
But you have to be so careful with that. But kids are great.
Yeah. I agree. Michael said some things here. So it was towards the beginning. He's talking about the beginning of your journey. Did drugs play a part in the whole all that in the beginning?
Actually, believe it or not, for me, no.
Okay.
I am very lucky. I don't drink and I don't do any drugs and I don't
Mm-hmm.
smoke. Whether that be the Mary Jane or tobacco. It's just again, I work with law enforcement, so we get random drug testing and all that. I did, and I do think it played some role in my family. My dad was a severe drug addict,
Mm-hmm.
and the witchcraft side really came from his side of the family.
Yeah.
And then my mom doesn't like to admit it, but she was an alcoholic for years. I'm talking she'd keg a Jim Beam.
Yeah.
And I remember my parents actually getting into my dad throwing her on the ground and beating her bad enough where we were having to call ambulances.
Yeah.
And then I think in another way that fueled me in the witch. Like I wanted revenge. When I said I had
Mm-hmm.
anger, and I wanted to put the same amount of pain that they put on me back on them. And I tried. Thank the Lord, didn't seem to work. But
Yeah.
now I just kind of try to. I'm the peace giver. I'm the like, which everybody always says is the weirdest, because it that instant change. I was no longer angry. I no longer felt like I used to think getting in an argument was fun. I was like, oh yeah,
Mm.
let's argue. I'll do it all day. But now I'm like, I don't really want to argue with you. Like I'm let me just be the peace and the love in your life. And if you got something going on, we can talk about it. And I'll try to help you navigate it as best you can. Or if you just want to sit there and scream at the world, you can. But it changed a lot, because I was a hothead. I would throw fists. I remember hitting my dad over the head with a steel chair one time.
Oh man.
Yeah, my sister beat my head into a wall until it split my head open,
Oh.
and then I turned around and strangled her till she turned blue.
Mm.
But there's just, the home was so angry. It
Yeah.
was such an angry place to be, and you didn't feel safe. And I think that just fueled it, because the practice teaches the self-love part. You're allowed to hurt people that hurt you. You only really need to care about yourself. If you do this, you can have that revenge, and you can have that release of your anger and all that stuff that you're looking for. And then you can help yourself by doing things like increasing your money, making sure you have the car you want, and it just gets deeper. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you go from doing, let me burn a bay leaf, to let me take the head off this chicken,
Mm.
to now let me have an abortion and get the remains back so that I can do X, Y, and Z with it, to let me take something from somebody's house that was theirs and do something with it because they made me mad. And I'm sometimes, it's such a petty thing.
Mm-hmm.
It gets to the point where you are so mad. Like, I just think it fosters your anger, that somebody could, and their dad could have just died, and maybe they snap at you one time and you're like, oh, now I'm gonna take everything from you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, luckily for me, drugs were not a part. I didn't have to battle that part, but I had to battle the rage,
Yeah.
and I think that was hard too.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we're getting into here almost to the hour mark, and it's been good interviewing you, Lily, and I've learned a lot. So I did not know. Reinforced. I'm glad I'm Catholic. I'm glad that you're coming to the faith. Like I said, I was so excited about this interview. It did not disappoint. Your story
Mhm.
did not disappoint. We got a lot. This is probably the top interview I've had, because we had up to like 7 people viewing at a time. We usually have like two. So I mean,
Mhm.
this was a lot of people tuned in. And a lot of people will tune in, subscribe, and that'll be good. So please, if you want to hear more of these interviews, like, subscribe, and let me click do it here. And so everything is good. And I will talk to you all later. Make sure before you go receive communion, go to confession, and be in a state of grace. And bye bye for now. See you later.
Bye.